One day Jesus is out for a walk in heaven. He's checking out the kingdom. And if you've seen pictures or read your Bible, you'll know that the kingdom is surrounded by a great, beautiful wall. And he's walking along this wall when he hears this voice. Hello, hello. Jesus replies, he stops and replies, well, who is it? Just the poor old carpenter searching for his son. Well, Jesus leaps for joy. This must be his earthly father, Joseph. And so he cries out to the voice, Joseph. And the voice answers back, Pinocchio. Now, this is not in the Bible. It didn't really, it's just a cute little story, all right? So don't throw anything at me. Not so with this Old Testament story of a king. This really did happen. And this morning we read the first 5 verses from 2 Samuel chapter 5. This is an account of the coronation. David, anointed king of Israel. I love reading about David. He is one of my favorite Old Testament characters. How can you not love this guy? He starts out life as a lowly shepherd. King Saul hires him to play music for him because he's being tormented by these emotional problems. And David gains fame when he kills that Philistine giant by the name of Goliath. And this propels him into leadership roles, and he wins great battles for the Lord. He is the ultimate Jewish leader. Now, David is not without faults. He did some things that were, well, they were terribly wrong. But he always found his way back to God, experiencing God's grace and forgiveness. I love this guy. Courageous, strong in war, dynamic leader, skillful at playing musical instruments, wrote beautiful songs. When you read the Psalms, so many of them were penned by David. And when I read about him in the book of Samuel, I say to myself, I want to be like this guy. I want to be like Dave. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to share a message, and usually I preach to you guys. This morning, this is my sermon to me. Now, if you want to listen in, you may, but I want to help me to be a better leader. And as you listen, maybe you'll find something here for your walk with Christ. So as we examine the qualities and the values that not only made David a great king, but also it endeared him to his people. They loved him. They followed him. And the first thing that stands out when you study his life is that he was a man of faith. It's King David's value of faith in God that made him a great leader. In verse 2, the people acknowledge this. Again, it reads, for a long time, you were the one who really led Israel. And the Lord has told you, you will be the shepherd of my people Israel. You will be their leader. It was David's desire to place his complete trust in the Lord. And the results of this dynamic faith and trust are that he was recognized by the people as a successful leader. And the people also recognized in their king, this is a man of faith. Maybe you watched this on TV. It was on, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Daredevil Nick Wallenda on the Discovery Channel. 2 separate tightropes walkings, or acts, or whatever you call it, actually on a steel wire. He crosses the Chicago River between 2 skyscrapers, 500 feet in the air, no safety harness, no nets, and on the second walk, he's blindfolded. Discovery Channel televised this stunt. It was on YouTube. I couldn't watch it. But this guy's nuts. But they broadcast it live, but there was a 10-second delay. You see, the Discovery Channel, just in case something went wrong, they could cut away. And there were many journalists there, news reporters, and so the Discovery Channel had them sign waivers to their right to claim emotional distress, just in case something bad happened. I was thinking about this. Apparently, the Discovery Channel did not have much faith that Walinda would make that crossing once or twice. Actually, if he didn't make it the first time, you know he wasn't going to try the second time. Just before the stunt, he was interviewed. And he was asked, what's the most difficult aspect of walking on a tightrope blindfolded? And this is what he said. Taking away the most important sense of a wire walker, vision and focus, is very, very challenging. Isn't that what Christian faith is all about? When others have reservations that you're going to succeed, when you can't see the other side, and things are kind of out of focus, they're not quite clear, it's then that we exercise faith and we move forward. We trust our instincts, we trust all the training, and most importantly, we put our faith in God. King David did more than just stand before the people on his coronation day and say, I'm the king, follow me. David was a man who placed his trust in God, and all of his training and all of his past accomplishments. And he could say, follow me, because I have faith in God. When it came to faith, David could look at the people and say, you can trust me. It started at a young age. As a teenager, and we know the story from Sunday school and reading our Bibles, as a young teenager, he stood before this giant Goliath. And he said to him, I come in the name of the Lord. But before the elders, the leaders in Israel's army, would allow him to go out and face the giant, they had to take stock in this young man. And I'm sure they were doing a mental review of all the things he had accomplished at a young age. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 34, David shares with or refreshes their memory. He said, when a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and take the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do the same to that pagan Philistine. You don't go into battle against a raging lion or a angry bear and not come away with some scars. And I suspect, though the Bible doesn't say, I suspect he had some battle scars that he could point to as proof. He wasn't afraid. He did battle with that ferocious beast. And that was his authorization, his documentation, his proof that he was a man of faith and God delivered him. I like this guy. He's the kind of leader I want to be. Some of you are on Facebook. Come on, admit it. I know because we're friends on Facebook. Now, if you have no idea what it's all about, then what I'm about to share with you goes for naught. But for those of you who do Facebook, as your pastor does, and by the way, the church also has a Facebook page. As much as I like Facebook to connect and put out messages and keep in touch with all of you, as much as I like this this venue of communication, it still drives me nuts. There are some things about it I just cringe. True story, I just read this. A fellow showed his status update where someone had posted that their father had passed away, and it had 16 likes. What is going on? What's wrong with people today? And if you've been on Facebook, then you know that people love to post pictures of what they're going to eat at a restaurant, pictures of their cat or their dog, really some really silly pictures. I follow you on Facebook, Teresa. By the way, she did post something that was exciting. She took a picture. Where was the picture taken?
Lower Huron Metro Park.
She knows what I'm going to say. And it was an autumn scene in color, and it was really a beautiful picture. And the local paper,
Yeah, it was posted in the news.
it was posted in the News Herald. And it was a large posting. And she brought a copy of the paper. But not only did she do that, she posted it on Facebook so everyone could see. It's out there on the internet.
It's exciting.
It's exciting, she says. Well, I don't know if it's exciting, but it's pretty. Anyway, so I'm sharing all this because I grit my teeth with Facebook and using it. And the one thing that bugs me, besides the pictures of the food and the cats and all the other stuff, people like to post pithy little sayings or electronic flyers or posters of some saying. And I guess they feel that we need to see this, you know, and I just scroll right past. I won't even read them, you know, why do they do this? I swore I would never post a electronic flyer on my Facebook page, but I did. I came across this quote, and I was looking for something that would fit with my message, and I found this, so I did post it on Facebook. It's a poem, or from a poet by the name of Patrick Overton. By the way, he is a minister in the Disciples of Christ. He's very accomplished as a poet and as a writer. Anyways, this is one of his well-known sayings. When you have come to the end of all the light that you know and are about to drop off into the darkness of the unknown, faith is knowing one of two things will happen. There will be something solid to stand on, or you will be taught to fly. That's good. That's the kind of leadership that David provides for his people, that he demonstrates. This is the kind of leader that I want to be. This is the truth of faith. No matter what the trial, no matter what we face together, I'm going to come out standing or flying. Amen. Another quality, value that we find in King David, his loyalty. In verse 3, so there at Hebron, David made a covenant, signed a contract with the leaders of Israel before the Lord. A covenant. A promise of loyalty. Not only did the people pledge their loyalty to the king, David promised as their leader he would be a loyal monarch. And this was a pledge that came natural to David. And this says volumes about his character. Prior to his ascension to the throne of Israel, David served King Saul. Saul was no easy man to serve. He was prone to bouts of depression. He really had issues. He was jealous of David. He was suspicious of him. He didn't like David's winsome personality. He only put up with him because he could play the harp and soothe him with his music. He certainly didn't like it because David was a great general. And I suspect, deep down, he even had issues about David's faith. David had every reason to be disloyal to the king. And yet he recognized that Saul was God's anointed. If you read in your Bible and flip back to 1 Samuel chapter 24, then you read about a meeting that David has with Saul. Let me give you just a little bit of background. Saul has had this demonic rage. He is determined he's going to kill David. David escapes and goes out into hiding with his men. And Saul and his army have been chasing David all over the wilderness. You can almost hear Saul, if I get my hands on him, I'm going to club him to death. I'll slit his throat. I'm going to kill this guy. Once and for all, I'm going to get rid of David. One evening, after the chase, a long day, Saul finds shelter in a cave with his men, get a good night's sleep. Little does he know, David is in that cave, way in the back, in the darkness, hiding. The perfect time for David to get rid of his enemy, get rid of the man who wants to kill him. He doesn't do it. I know the first time I read this, I thought, get him, David. Here's your chance. The next day, David is outside of the cave now and a safe distance from Saul and his army. And he calls to Saul. Now I'm reading the Peterson translation. Now, you got the picture, okay? Saul and his army in the cave, David some distance back outside. It says, David stood at the mouth of the cave and called to Saul, "My master, my king." Saul looked back. David fell to his knees, bowed reverence. He called out, "Why do you listen to those who say David is out to get you? This very day with your very own eyes, you have seen that just now in the cave, God put you in my hands. My men wanted me to kill you, but I wouldn't do it. I told them I won't lift a finger against my master. He is God's anointed." And now later on, as a king, David expected loyalty from the people of Israel. He expected loyalty from his advisors and from all the government officials, from the armies that would follow him. And he could do so because he demonstrated loyalty. He was loyal to those whom God had called. Friends, a great leader is a loyal leader. And let's face it, that is a rare commodity in the 21st century. At the conclusion of a sermon, the preacher paused. And then he said to his congregation, "The same Jesus that called me to this church many years ago has not called me to leave and serve another church. This is my last sermon." And with that, he got up and he walked out the door. And the congregation just sat there stunned. They did not see this coming. And they're looking at each other, and the song leader is looking at his choir, and he scurries over to his piano, and he has the choir stand, and they all sing, "What a friend we have in Jesus." Loyalty to the pastor showing loyalty to the church. Where is loyalty in the church? I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a minute. And you can correct me if I'm wrong after the service. But doesn't it seem that there seems to be a great lack of loyalty today when it comes to church and denominations? People church hopping. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. I'll unite with this group. Don't like that group. I'm going to go over to this group. Don't like that singing. I'm going to go over here. It's happening today. But it's also in society. There's no such thing as brand loyalty anymore. Let's face it. Well, I've been buying a Ford for years, but I think I'm going to buy a Chevy now. No, I think I'll buy a Chrysler. No, I think I'll get something else. And whatever the price is, that's the way we are today. No brand loyalty. In the workplace, my son, who is very successful, who has had 2 very good jobs, paying real well, is now looking for another job. And I'm thinking, son, settle down. You've got a good job. Dad, don't worry. I'm young. They take their pension with them now. There's no loyalty to a company or. I read this statistic. The average company loses anywhere between 20% and 40% of their employees. No commitment. I guess I'm old-fashioned, but I believe in esprit de corps. I believe that there has to be some kind of loyalty. When I accepted your invitation to come and be your pastor, I made a promise. I made a promise to the diaconate. I made a promise to the conference. I made a promise to the congregation. And I made a promise to me that I would be, or try to be, the best UCC pastor this church has ever had. Now, I know I may stumble and fall, and you'll think, oh my, where do we get this guy? But believe me, I am going to try with all my heart to do the best that I can. I demand loyalty. I want to remain loyal to the gospel, to my God, to my church. My theory is that if I demonstrate a high level of loyalty, the church will only grow and be stronger. Now, it's not to say that there are times when I scratch my head and I wonder about you guys. Because I know you do that with me. In spite of that, I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to be a loyal pastor. Speaking of loyalty and pastors, let me pull this out. Have you ever wondered how a pastor knows when his ministry is over and it's time to leave? I have here the top 10 reasons why it's time for a pastor to move. You don't have to take any notes. Reason number 10. You return from vacation to find that the visiting preacher's name is on your mailbox. Number 9. Your church is about to split and neither group wants you. Number 8. Shut-ins pull the shades and pretend they aren't home when you come for a visit. Number 7. Mom moves her membership to another church. Number 6. You are cast as the donkey in the Christmas play. Number 5. Your wife moves her membership to another church. Number 4. Your secretary starts sending out your resume. Number 3. Church members start referring to you in the past tense. Number 2. The congregation honors you on Pastor Sunday with a 2-for-1 coupon at Ponderosa. And finally, the number 1 reason, the number 1 indicator it's time to move. You show up at the church. Mac, take note. You show up at the church on Monday morning and discover all the locks have been changed. Don't get any ideas, please. A lawyer, an effective pastor is a loyal pastor. That's what I want to be. Finally, okay, we looked at David and his faith, his loyalty. A third quality that made him a great king, a quality I'm praying I have. It's a quality that he was a man who knew and understood obedience. I'm going to read the last 4 verses of 2 Samuel chapter 5. It's not printed in your bulletin, but here they are. But after a while, the Philistines returned and again spread out across the valley of Rephaim. And again David asked the Lord what to do. Do not attack them straight on, the Lord replied. Instead, circle around behind and attack them near the poplar trees. When you hear a sound like marching feet in the tops of the poplar trees, be on the alert. That will be the signal that the Lord is moving ahead of you to strike down the Philistine army. So David did what the Lord commanded, and he struck down the Philistines. Did you hear that? So David did what the Lord commanded. He's about to lead his army into battle, and the odds makers have already determined it's a losing cause. David, you're not going to win this one. He has every reason to be afraid. He has every reason to run and hide. But this is a leader who desires to be obedient to God. He only wants to follow God's commands. Now, keep in mind, this is a younger, less cynical David. We know that later on in his years that he's going to fail miserably. He'll have to repent and ask for forgiveness from God. But at this moment, he's the new leader, and he's seeking the will of God. And it's